Good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening. What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? It's your man God of Dots back with another episode of Freestyle Friday. Freestyle Friday is where we kind of try to mix in the social stuff with the sports stuff. Hope everybody's had a very good week. Hope everybody's had a very good start to the year, man. And it has it has been a hell of a start to the week, man. It has been a hell of a start to the week. Hell of a start to the year. The energy is just different. It's just different right now. I just wanted to kind of come in here and drop this quick show off, man. I'm not going to take up too much of your time. I know people are busy. It's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of shows going on. It's Friday night, man. Typically this would be double duty for me, but not so tonight, man. I'm chilling. I'm chilling. I'm chilling. Where we want to start tonight. If you missed yesterday's show, shout out to the good brother Goes TC, Turn Up TV, whatever they calling him this week. Thank him for coming through and blessing the panel last night. And I was kind of struggling how I was going to kind of craft tonight's show, the Freestyle Friday. But sometimes, when you get kind of sidetracked, and yesterday's show was not your typical NFL preview stuff that I typically do on Thursdays when we talk about the big games coming up, especially with this being the last week of the season, the playoffs starting soon. Sometimes you get sidetracked, but sometimes you get sidetracked in a good way. And the discussion that we was having last night in regards to certain players and how players are judged, and it kind of led us to talk about the running back position. And namely, if you saw the thumbnail, Christian McCaffrey was kind of the topic of conversation, and how he's judged differently than other running backs at the position when we're talking about value to the team, how it's seen as value to the team. And like I said, that's where the conversation kind of went. And like I said, sometimes you get sidetracked and it leads you to something a little bit more fruitful, something a little bit more fruitful. So yeah, that's what we're gonna kind of focus in on tonight, Freestyle Friday show. We will be doing a little bit. We'll talk about the big games a little bit later in the show as we kind of close out. I'm not going to be up here too long. Like I said, it's been one hell of a week, one long ass week, and I'm just happy to be in the number. But I wanted to cover this story a little bit while ago. It happened a couple of weeks ago. But I just never got around to it. Brother, be busy doing other stuff. Getting prepared for shows and working on content with other people, man. So I kind of let it slip through the cracks. But last night's show kind of sparked that conversation back up for me, and I said, okay, man, I got to bring this to the table, have a discussion about it, and we'll see where it go. But a couple weeks ago, Rashard Mendenhall, former running back for the Pittsburgh Steelers, came out, posted a tweet. They got people really, really upset on certain sides of the fence. He called for the NFL to segregate the Pro Bowl just to prove that black players are superior to white players. And this is coming off, I guess, it was his feelings about how certain sports analysts were commenting on stuff at the game. And I just kind of break down some of his thoughts during that tweet. He was like, he urged white people to stop commenting on football, saying they don't understand the game. And it got a little buzz, in the sports community, sports analyst community. Really, you had a lot of people coming out saying his stuff was racist. He's like, why would you argue that one race is superior to another or one is inferior to another? And and his thought process behind it was like, too often, we're watching these sports shows and they're breaking down the game, and sometimes, if you're watching it and you're not really paying attention, you're thinking, oh man, they're talking about a player, they're talking about his game. And rightfully so. You've heard me say that, man. Anytime you put product out here, and it's how you put yourself out there on the stage, whether it be sports, whether it be entertainment, whether it be just doing what I'm doing, anytime you put yourself out there, you open yourself up to critique. And if you haven't been noticed, if you're not really watching and you're not really paying attention to what some of the vitriol, some of the stuff that is being said, I see it a lot, being a Cowboys fan, and how certain members of the media will go out of their way. Will go out of their way to critique Dak Prescott, to demean him, demean his game. I remember covering a story earlier in the season where you had a certain unsavory sports analyst talking about Dak having a baby was a bad thing for the team, and he should be he should be ashamed of himself for having a baby and all that kind of stuff. And that kind of I'm understanding through the lens of Rashard Mendenhall when he says that, like, hey, you got people that are analyzing the game, commenting on the game, and I'm of the mindset of this. When you put yourself out there, you're open to critique. I don't have to have played the game to understand what I'm seeing. I don't have to have played the game to understand if Steph Curry has an off night. I don't, you don't have to, be a former NBA player to know that 4 for 31 is a bad shooting night. I mean, let's keep it a buck. But I also understand I don't go out of my way and try to understand the inner workings of the athlete. I just grade you on your performance. I don't understand your mindset, understand your preparation. That's not my get down. I don't know, what kind of work you're putting in behind the scene, what kind of work you're putting in the film room. That's not my get down. I don't want to break it down like that. I just break it down on your performances and what you're doing in regards to your performance on the field. But back to Rashard Mendenhall's tweet. Like I said, he got a lot of people upset. Like I said, I meant to cover this earlier, just didn't get around to it. But it had me thinking. I listen to a lot of that stuff as I get together and craft these shows and whatnot. Um, What's going on, Vici? Welcome, welcome, welcome. Slid on over here. I'm keeping it low key this weekend, man. I'm keeping it low key this week. as of, as we stand at this moment, this will be my only show for the night. As it stand at this moment, man. But you never know. You never know. But right now it's looking like this be my only show for the night. I may discuss that in a future time, but the question of the day is, are white players judged differently than black players? And like I said, Christian McCaffrey was the perfect thing. And I would say this about Christian McCaffrey's game. I like his game. I think he's a very good football player. I don't look at him through the lens of black or white. I just look at, he's a good player, black or white. He's productive on the field. I grade him on his performance. I'm not grading him on his race. And but going back to Rashard Mendenhall, like, you want to segregate the Pro Bowl and make it black versus white. Look, dude, I get the thought process behind that. We know that the NFL for the most part is 75% black. So you have a larger pool of players to pull from, and a larger pool of good players to pull from. In regards to the white players, white players for the most part dominate certain positions. They dominate certain positions in the NFL, mainly offensive line, mainly on the quarterback position. They dominate those positions. You don't typically see a white cornerback out there. I think the last white cornerback I know that started for a whole season, you got to go back like 10 to 15 years, and we're talking about Jason Sehorn for the New York Giants. Like, certain positions that white players, due to how they grade at the combine and that kind of stuff, they just don't fall in line with those positions. Certain positions, like, you don't really see um, you know, white players, dominating at certain positions. You don't really see them at the cornerback position. You typically really don't see them at the running back position. Um, like I said, NFL is 75% black. It's a larger pool of players to pull from. And like, and I thought, Mendenhall, I understood the direction he was going to. I think that was just the wrong direction, the wrong way to kind of put it. What you really was, I think this is just my own interpretation of the tweet that he put out. I think he was trying to interpret that, hey, judge players, whether they be black or white, judge them off their performance on the field. You don't have to spend so much time, denigrating and going after black players. And that's what it looks like to some people when you go so hard after a Dak Prescott for having a subpar year like he had last year. But Tom Brady can have a subpar year, and we just don't. And when I say we, I'm just talking about the majority. We just don't talk about it. We put the blame on our coordinators. We put the blame on the head coach. We put the blame on the talent around them. But certain black players in certain positions and certain teams do not get that pass. Do not get that pass. Cowboys lose this year. If they lose this year and don't win the Super Bowl, no one's going to be talking about you know, the white players. No one's going to be talking about, issues along the offensive line, injuries along the offensive line. No one's going to be talking about the job the defensive coordinator did like that. Nobody's going to be really after Mike McCarthy like that. It's going to be all on deck. And, like I said, I get the direction that Mendenhall was going with this. And, I have to kind of agree with him. Like when you watch sports media, too much emphasis and too much bias is put into play. I try to keep it as unbiased as possible when I'm talking about these players, when I'm talking about the performance, when I'm talking about what I'm seeing on the field. I don't look it through the lens of black and white, but it's some people, in this genre of news reporting that do look at it like that. And too often than not, the problem that I have with it is not necessarily that it's coming from white people or white analysts. The problem that I see when I watch this stuff and I'm taking it all in is the extra sauce that's put on by black analysts. Like you feel like you have to go extra hard. You got to be a little extra coonish to a degree to where you are going above and beyond to critique a player, criticize a player, and it stops being about the play on the field. It starts being about their character and stuff like that. But you don't really see those white participants in the media go that route. No matter what happens, no matter how bad a guy plays, no matter how bad he looked out on the field, no matter how good he looked out there on the field, they stay on code. Like they'll say, yeah, he had a bad game, and like we'll keep it moving. You don't attack his character, you don't attack his family life, you don't paint the picture of a white player, especially in the NFL. You don't paint the picture of a white player as being a detriment to the team. You just don't do that. Like um kind of reminds me of the TO situation in his playing days. Like so much negative attention was put on him, and he was what was they calling him, team obliterator. He was a problem. The guy never had any issues off the field, never had any arrests, never had any drug issues, didn't do anything illegal in terms of the law. But you had those that's in the media that was painting a picture of this guy being a villain, being an asshole, being a guy you can't work with, being a guy you can't win with, being it was just like overboard. And if you wasn't paying attention to the hidden messages, and that's what I kind of think I kind of break it down to is the hidden messages behind a lot of the stuff that you're hearing when it comes to some of these sportscasters. Like I don't remember Brett Favre getting that kind of treatment by people in the media to that degree that they was trying to break down T.O. I mean, they was questioning, his intelligence, questioning his character. And you had, Brett Favre right here, who was, at one point when he was playing was a whole drug addict. A guy that had sexual allegations when he was playing with the Jets was a clear guy that was in it for himself, wasn't about the team. It wasn't about the organization. I mean, you saw that year after year as he kind of closed out his career. Like, will I go to come to training camp? Will I retire? Yada yada yada, and holding the whole organization hostage. But those in the white media, for the most part, those in the white media, for the most part, was painting the picture of him. Oh, he's just taking his time, and he's got to sit down and not under. Not really calling for what it is. Guy was a selfish dude. Guy was a fucked up dude. And you've seen that even in his time since he's left the NFL, the kind of, poo shiesty shit he's, and I hate to be cussing on a Friday, but it is what it is. That kind of poo shiesty shit he was pulling down there in Mississippi by taking that TANF money, money that is intended for the poor and the underpaid, and I wouldn't call them oppressed, but you understand what I'm talking about. Those who have are in need of such government resource. You had a guy in Brett Favre who was taking that money and using it to build a volleyball court because his daughter was going to that school. A guy who was taking money, TANF money, that was intended to go to the citizens of Mississippi and those who understand what life is like in Mississippi. Understand this is a poor that was the poorest, it still is the poorest state in the United States. It's a poverty ridden state, and you had a guy here that was taking money to do pooh shiesty shit, this underhanded type shit, selfish type shit, stuff that he participated in. The selfish behavior that we saw with him as a player. And you saw that continue out after he retired and left the game of football. They don't really talk about it. They kind of mention it and kind of keep it moving. When it comes to let that be a black player, and this is kind of like I said, going back to Rashard Mendenhall, what I think he meant when he was making that tweet. When it comes to black players, they don't get that same pass. They don't get that same, we're just gonna, it was a misstep. We'll note it and kind of keep it moving. They don't get that same energy put out to them, and that same level of grace extended to them by those in the media. So yeah, and like I said, if you missed yesterday's show with the good brother TC, like I said, it's kind of like the basis for tonight's show, kind of sparked that conversation. And we was talking about it yesterday. So, I wanted to continue with today on this Freestyle Friday show because, like I said, I like to mix the social with the sports on the Freestyle Friday show when I do them. But, the question, you see it scrolling across the bottom of the screen, are white players judged differently than black players? In my opinion, they are. And I don't think it's fair. But, at the end of the day, what can you really do about it? As a player, even as a fan, what can you really do about it? You're playing in leagues that are controlled by white people, that are sponsored by mainly white organizations, the Budweisers and the T-Mobiles and all of that kind of stuff, and they have a certain view of you as a player. They have a certain view of you as a player, as a commodity to their business, regardless if you dominate their sport, regardless of how well you play. They have a certain view of you, and white players for the most part are not judged along the same lines as black players. And it's sad, but it's like, what can you do about it when you don't control the business, when you don't really have control over the optics? It's just kind of like you gotta push through it, you gotta play through it and understand, even though it's not fair. But it's not really much you can do. The only thing you can go out there and do is continue to be upstand and continue to be true to yourself in that degree. But yeah, white players are judged differently. Like I said, I like Christian McCaffrey's game. I think he was a hell of a player. I don't look at him when I watch him play. I don't look at him, oh, he's a white running back and he's doing it. Like, nah, I just look at him as a good football player. But you have those in the media that will sensationalize and overhype Christian McCaffrey's talent and ability and accomplishments. Is like he's the best thing since sliced bread, and that is, statistically, that is, that's not true. But when you're the ones that controlling the narrative and pushing out the narrative, I mean, this is what you kind of get. I don't think Christian McCaffrey, is a he can fit in any system, any bad player, but the system that he plays in helps him a lot. It features him in ways that other players are not featured. They don't get the opportunities that a Christian McCaffrey get, and I don't think it's because he's a white player. I just think he's that good of a player. But I think too much is put into critiquing and breaking down black players and making them feel less than. This is, I'm not saying it's fans, it's talking about the media. Make them feel less than what they are. I don't think Christian McCaffrey is any more talented of a player at the running back position than a Nick Chubb. I think, in my opinion, Nick Chubb is the best running back in the game. Sad he got hurt this year, but in my opinion, Nick Chubb is the best running back in the game. I don't look at him as being the best because he's black. I just look at it based on his production on the field, the things that he's able to do on the field that Christian McCaffrey has not done. You're talking about a guy who's, dominated the league since he's come into the league, barring injury, been the best running back in the game, period. When you think best running back in the game, you don't think in most seasons Christian McCaffrey. He's been in discussion a couple times, but not all the time. You have people that will say Saquon Barkley was the best player. You would have people that would say Derrick Henry was the best running back. Zeke, when he was in his prime, was considered one, probably the best running back at the time. But I see what Mendenhall was getting at, is like this overhype of the white player. This over hype, and you kind of see that extended even outside of football. When you look at basketball, you have people that'll look at white players as being putting them on pedestals that are higher than what their production is saying. Like, I like Luka. I like Luka Doncic as a player. Great player. But when I look at him play, I'm not looking at him as a white boy. I'm not looking at him as black. Let's look at the quality of his play. But the media, loves to overhype Luka like he's the second coming of Larry Bird. And I don't know, it has something to do with you can take this all the way back to the days of Jack Johnson. This need to feel equal than or more or superior to the black athlete. And understand that the black athlete is what the black athlete is. Anytime that we are allowed and there was a time we weren't allowed to participate in the same leagues as a lot of white players, i.e. the Negro leagues and that kind of stuff. When we're allowed to compete, we excel. And I don't like I said, I don't want to make it a black white thing, but it's hard for me to not look at the coverage that a Christian McCaffrey gets. It's hard for me not to look at a coverage that a Dak Prescott gets and tell me it's not some undertone of racial bias. As well as Dak has played this year, you can't tell me some of it is, and some folks will attribute it to cowboy hate. I'm not going to go as far as say it's cowboy hate, but I will attribute it to it being it's a bit of a racial undertone to it. It is a bit of a racial undertone to it, and it's sad to say that it's like that. But I mean, it's the media, and you can't, you can control your own image, but the media will always try to create an image for you. And you've seen that, and I don't want to get into too deep of a racial bag with this one, because I can go, real deep when we talk about the history of the black quarterback in regards to the NFL. How reason why black athletes wasn't given an opportunity to play quarterback because they were deemed dumb. Had nothing to do with an actual track record of quarterbacks, black quarterbacks being bad and actually not being able to understand film and actually quote unquote being dumb. This is a simple fact that was a way to say, hey, you're not qualified to play this position. And you still see that to a degree even today. It's a lot more black quarterbacks playing the position now in today's NFL, but I want you to look closer when you get the draft. Get closer to you when you look at the draft. I want you to notice when they talk about white quarterbacks, they're not going to be telling you he's not athletic enough to play the position. He's going to struggle because he can't move his feet. Meanwhile, Tom Brady was out here running a damn 4.7, 4.8 at his combine, but they're gonna gloss over that. But when it comes to the black quarterback, you're already kind of seeing some of the narratives being put out there about Washington's quarterback who will more than likely enter the draft, Michael Penix. You're gonna hear people saying, "Oh, he's not athletic enough to play the position to the level." A Pro Bowl lead. It's still, you gotta kind of weed between the bullshit and read between the lines when you're listening to this stuff on your air, on your TV screens, on the YouTube and all that. You gotta start reading between the lines because sometimes it's intentional. With the the racial bias that you see in the media. Just pay attention to it. A little bit of housekeeping. It is some games. I said I was going to get into the games. Some of the big games coming up this weekend. I will do that since I didn't do it last night. I want to, kind of wrap it up. And that's kind of like my spiel. Um, Kind of like my spiel for, the Freestyle Friday part. I want to do my previews of the games and just, kind of get up out of here, man, and chill out. As of right now, I'm gonna be chilling. I'm gonna be chilling. Um, let's look forward to the. Let me pull up the week 18 schedule real quick. All right, so you got some big games starting tomorrow. You got two games. Tomorrow, playoff implications for everybody involved. You got Steelers are going against the Ravens. Ravens have already come out and said Lamar Jackson is not going to be playing this game. I expect a significant number of the starters for the Ravens to not be playing. They have nothing to play for. They've already secured home field. It's nothing for them to play for. But you had the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are in a fight to still make the playoffs, even with the win. Even with the win, it doesn't guarantee Pittsburgh a place in the playoffs. Pittsburgh needs a win, or needs a build, and I mean they have to win. They have to win or tie. But they have to if they don't win, the only way Pittsburgh doesn't gets in and they don't win tomorrow. Like I said, very big game for Pittsburgh. Jags got to lose, Denver's got to win, and the Colts and Texans game doesn't end in a tie. I would say this about Pittsburgh. I've liked Mike Tomlin going with Mason Rudolph at the quarterback position. I know Kenny Pickett is back from injury, but at this point of the season, you're fighting to get into the playoffs. Mason Rudolph has looked good the last two games as the starter. The offense has looked a whole lot better with Mason Rudolph at the quarterback position. Since he's kind of come in and kind of steadied the position. Like I said, the offenses look good. I expect Pittsburgh to win. Just for the simple fact, I'm not going to say Baltimore's going to lay it down. Baltimore's still going to go out there with the same intensity. I think the reason why I got Pittsburgh winning because I don't think Baltimore's going to have the same talent out there on the field. Like I said, it's already been announced. Lamar Jackson will not be playing. You may or may not be seeing Dalvin Cook get a couple reps. I don't expect OBJ to be playing significant time. I don't think Zay Flowers is going to. It's a lot of the starters for Baltimore outside of Lamar Jackson may play a series or two, may play the first quarter. But I don't see them really giving those guys a lot of burn. Typically, when teams have had home field advantage kind of sewn up, they take the time to rest certain players. I expect some of the offensive linemen, defensive linemen to get some rest. So, for that simple reason, like I said, I don't think they're going to go lay down. Pittsburgh is still a hated rival, but they're not going full force. There's nothing for them to play for. And Pittsburgh is going to have a sense of desperation about them because you want to win, and you got to let the chips fall where they may, because they still need help to get into the playoffs, even if they win. But Pittsburgh is going to come out desperation mode. Like I said, I like Mason Rudolph, how he's been playing. The offense just looks a whole lot better. They've looked better in the last 2 weeks than they have all season. And I'm as a guy who picked him as a dark horse, happy to see that. So I got Steelers over the Ravens tomorrow. Big game also tomorrow night. You got Texans, Colts. Both teams with an outside chance to not only get into the playoffs, but still with a chance to get the division. I think for the Texans, they win and the Jags lose, they win the division, and that's saying something for the Texans, who I don't think anybody outside of Houston picked the Texans to make it to the playoffs, let alone win the division this year with a rookie quarterback, with a rookie head coach. But shouts out to CJ Stroud, who I thought should have been named to the Pro Bowl based off the season that he had, but unfortunately, he still may get an opportunity as an alternate. And first-year head coach DeMeco Ryans. I think if the Texans are able to win a division, it'd be hard for me. And I know how well other teams have played that have better records, but it'd be hard for me to pick a coach who's had a bigger impact on his team's success than DeMeco Ryans. DeMeco Ryans is coming there and he's changed the attitude. He's changed the culture in Houston. to something they haven't had in a very, 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 very long time, and didn't have it under the Bill O'Brien era while he was there. But D'Amico Ryans, in my opinion, hell, win or lose, need to even have the Texans in a position to where they can walk away with the division, should be coach of the year. I'm pretty sure he'll get some votes. But that'd be my pick. That'd be my pick. Colts on the opposite hand, you have to be astonished by the job that they've done. Shane Steichen has done in his first year as head coach with the Colts. Losing Anthony Richardson, first round quarterback early in the season, having the issues with Jonathan Taylor and on the pup and the injuries that they've suffered in Indianapolis, to have put themselves in an opportunity with a win tomorrow night and a Jags loss to win the division. I think both of these teams should be proud of the seasons that they had, whether they make the playoffs or not. But the Colts, considering you got Gardner Minshew coming in and doing his thing, and Shane Steichen being the offensive guru that he is, you can see how he's calling it up and he's dialing it up for Minshew to be successful, and you see why he's being missed in Philadelphia this year. You see the difference a coordinator can make by not being in place. But I think this is going to be a very good game. Texans are on the road. Indianapolis is a tough place to play. I just think it's going to be a very good game, very close game. But I got Texas. I got Texas. I think CJ Stroud makes just a little bit more plays than Gardner Minshew and picks up the win. But like I said, both teams still with an outside chance, even with a loss, to possibly back into the playoffs. As we look at the rest of the calendar for this weekend, like I said, final week of the season, a lot is on the line. You have Jacksonville going up to Tennessee. Going up to Tennessee to play the Titans. Titans with a chance to really, mess up the Jaguars season. Jaguars win, and they win the division they're in. Jaguars could also get in with the Steelers loss. They can get in with the Steelers loss and the Broncos loss. It's a lot of ways for Jacksonville, but I'd say Jacksonville is, to me, and I know this is Gator Girl's favorite team, and I know she's listening somewhere out there, catching the replay or whatever. I know this Gator Girl's first team, but for them to be in this position to where they could possibly not only lose the division, but be out of the playoffs, it's got to be looked at as kind of a disappointing season for Jacksonville, considering how the season started. Give me a second. How it's being looked at, considering the start that they had to the season. I say at one point it was 8-3. They was in the hunt for the number one seed in the AFC, and to be here, week 18, needing a win, to go ahead and secure the division, but also, and if you lose, hoping that other teams lose too, and you could be out of the playoffs. So I would say this has been a very disappointing season for Jacksonville, because, like I said, considering how they start, they're finishing, very, very weak going to the end of the season. Tennessee, like I said, nothing to really play for other than draft positioning. You'll possibly see Tennessee put some of the young guys out there, get a look or see what they have as far as going into the next season, and they want to play the role of spoiler. This is still a division game. Tennessee, for a long time, had a death grip on this division, and they've seen it slip away the last couple of years. They have an opportunity to ruin the Jaguars season, but I don't see it happening. I think Jacksonville takes care of business, wraps up the division, even though they are on the road. I'm curious to see how Jacksonville's first half is going to tell me a lot. Jacksonville should come out here with the mindset that they need this win, and not to take Tennessee lightly, and go out there and do what good teams are supposed to do with the bad teams, and then to stomp them out. This is a game, like I said, Tennessee has nothing to play for other than be spoiler. Jacksonville has everything to play for. Jacksonville should come out and really put it on these boys, but it's a part of me that feels like Jacksonville's going to play around and it's going to get a little too close, but I think they'll pull it out. So I got Jags over the Titans. You got Vikings and Lions. The Lions have already got wrapped up the division, still with an outside chance. I'm thinking about the wrong scenario. Vikings still with a chance. I'm sorry. Vikings still with a chance to possibly kind of backdoor into the playoffs. They need a win, need the Packers loss and the Seattle loss and the Saints loss. Vikings need a lot of help. But it don't mean anything if they can't pick up a win. They have to win against Detroit. Like I said, Detroit, I expect to be resting a couple of starters here and there, depending on how the flow of the game is going. I don't expect them to be going all out to win. Like I said, they really have nothing to play for. Their position in the playoffs is already kind of solidified. It's not going to change. They've already kind of locked themselves into the 3 seed in the NFC. So you may, like I said, you may see some starters resting for Detroit, but knowing Dan Campbell had them guys out there all 4 quarters just to make sure the Vikings don't get it. Vikings have to win, and it's a part of me that know Dan Campbell and how he's kind of coached his team, and the kind of risk taker he is. I don't see Dan Campbell sitting too many starters, if any. And I got Detroit winning. At home, close out the season. You want to close out the season strong going into next week. That we'll have a home game next week. And the Vikings, I mean, have nothing to be disappointed about. You lost Kirk Cousins early in the season. You've had kind of a revolving door at the quarterback position. You had Justin Jefferson, who missed significant time this season. But the Vikings have played themselves into where, hey, if they win and they get some help, could possibly be in the playoffs. Even if they had all that help and got into the playoffs, I don't see the Vikings doing too much. But you can't be disappointed by the season that they had, because I myself and with a lot of other sports analysts figures their season was over when Kirk Cousins got hurt, especially how Kurt started out the season, how well he was playing. Vikings, a playoff team last year, won the division last year. And it just didn't happen. Like I said, injuries kind of caught up to him at key positions, and you can only overcome subpar quarterback play for so long. And that's what they had when Cousins went out. Josh Dobbs had a couple good starts, and he kind of fell off the cliff and went in the doghouse. They had a rookie. Vikings, I mean, they've done the best they can. But I got Lions winning at home. Like I said, Dan Campbell's one of those guys want to set the tone, set an attitude like, hey, we're not going to lay down. This is the division game. Vikings are going to come out there playing hard. We're going to play hard too. So I got Detroit winning that one. You got Saints, Falcons. Both these teams need a win to stay in the hunt for the playoffs. They also need a win, and they also need a Buccaneers loss. We'll talk about the Buccaneers a little bit later. For the Falcons, they need to beat the Saints and have the Bucs lose to get into the playoffs, and they'll get in. As a division winner. That's their only avenue to get in. The Saints, on the other hand, need a win also. They need to win at the Falcons and the Buccaneers loss to secure the division. Both of these teams, in my opinion, considering how they've kind of played this year, underachieved. We talk a lot about the Falcons and the issues they had at the quarterback position with starting Desmond Ridder. I should have went to Heineke early in the season when we wouldn't be having this discussion. And the Saints, to my, have kind of played down. Offense has been inconsistent. I know you miss Alvin Kamara for stretches of the year, especially at the start of the season with the suspensions. But Saints, all 3 of these teams in this division have never looked like they wanted to take control of this division. And put their stamp on it. But like I said, it's going to be a hard fought game. It's always a good rivalry game for those that like to watch Saints and Falcons. And both teams are in a must win situation. I expect it to be good theater. If nothing else, good theater, good football. I got to take Saints at home. I got to take Saints at home. And not to say that I don't think the Falcons can pull it off, because they have the defense to pull it off. But I don't know what kind of identity, and we're talking about week 18 of the season. I don't know what kind of identity the Falcons have. Are you a running team? Are you a passing team? What kind of team are you? And this is the wrong time to be kind of figuring it out. And I think the Saints defense make enough plays against a very turnover prone Falcons team and pick up the win at home. With that being said, still need some help to even get into the playoffs, because even with the win, it doesn't guarantee them playoff position. Falcons, they have to win. It's no other options. There's no other way for the Falcons to back in. Saints have to win and hope for a Bucks loss, and you got to hope for either a Bucks loss, or you got to hope for a win and a Seahawks loss and a Packers loss. But it's like I said, it's must win, big game, division rival. Probably one of the games I'm gonna have on the tube watching that. You got Jets, Patriots. Not gonna spend too much time talking about that. Both teams preparing for the draft. Could this be the final game of the Bill Belichick era? It's probably the most intriguing storyline with the game. Patriots at home. I gotta pick Patriots in that. I think they take care of business. It's been a long season for both of them. And I think the Patriots, just because they're at home, I picked that one. You got Bucks and Panthers. Panthers have not looked good all season. I think Bucks win and end all threats to the division, lock themselves into a first round matchup with either the Cowboys and the Eagles, who we'll talk about in just a second. I think the Bucks take care of business on the road against the Panthers, pick up the win, and have a home game next week. You have Browns and Bengals. Browns coming in is probably the second best, based on how they look coming down the stretch, probably the second best team in the AFC. With an opportunity to continue the hot streak. Bengals. Let me check. Do they are they out of the playoffs? Yeah. Bengals are out of the playoffs. I think Cleveland keeps the pressure on, keeps Joe Flacco stays hot, and they keep it going. They've already kind of locked themselves in. They know they're going to be, the 5 seed anyway, so they'll probably be playing, I think, Kansas. No, they're playing Jacksonville. If Jacksonville wins, whoever wins the AFC South, they'll have a home game against the Browns. Next, we'll talk about that when we talk about the playoffs. But I think the Browns pick up the win against the Bengals. Bengals been a rough year. No Joe Burrow for about 7-8 game stretch of this season. He didn't look particularly good. Hopefully he comes back healthy next year. You got some things to kind of figure out in Cincinnati. You got some things to kind of figure out, some key free agents. I wouldn't say this season has been a disappointment, because you understand injuries have kind of derailed your season there in Cincinnati. But I think Cleveland take care of business. Go ahead and put you out of your misery. One of the other intriguing games, as we look at the afternoon slate for Sunday, got Cowboys over the Commanders. Cowboys win, lock up the division, number 2 seed. I expect them to take care of business against the Commanders. I'm not going to spend too much time talking about that. Same with the Eagles and Giants. I'm curious to see what the Eagles look like. Do they kind of do some things different on the defensive side of the ball to kind of shore up that defense? I think the Eagles win. They kind of lock themselves in. I think they'll lock themselves into the 5, and they'll have to go on the road to beat Tampa Bay. A very winnable game. Very winnable game. Probably the most intriguing game. Probably the most intriguing game. I'm gonna say Bears Packers. Because Bears, even though they're out of the playoffs, Packers need a win to get in. Bears have played strong in the second half of this year, and it's because you guys know I've been talking about Justin Fields in that situation he has up there as far as how they're running the offense through him. Bears have looked good in the second half of this season. Justin Fields has looked like, to me, and it's just to me, I think he should be the quarterback of this team going forward. Go get him some more weapons, offensive lineman, or whatever you got to get, to help him. And they do have the number 1 pick, which I expect the Bears to be shopping, because unless you're moving off Justin Fields, you're not taking a quarterback. And this is a very quarterback-rich draft. You may be able to, trade that number 1 pick, trade down, still be within the top 10. Because a lot of teams are going to be in the top 10 looking for a quarterback. Could possibly move down, get you another bevy of picks. If I'm Chicago, based off what I've seen from Justin Fields, I think Justin Fields, you allow him to play the way he's been playing in the second half, allow him and not constrict him with the playbook that you're trying to run, you might have something. But the Packers have looked strong. Packers have looked strong over the second half of the season. Also, defenses especially look real good for Green Bay, and Jordan Love he's clicked in. It took him a while. It was a rough start to the season for him. It took him a while to kind of click in, but yeah, I got Packers over Bears at but I think it's going to be a much more entertaining game than people think. I don't think people are really giving the Bears much of a chance considering how well the Packers have played, but the Bears have played just as well. Just as well. They just took them a little too late, but they was pushing for the playoffs. But I think Packers take care of business at home. Take care of business at home. Speaking of the other games, you got Seahawks over Cardinals. Seahawks need a win to get in, but it's going to be very hard because the Cardinals team, as they shown throughout this season, play hard. Regardless of what their record says, play hard. And I got Cardinals. I got Cardinals over the Seahawks. I think Cardinals go ahead into Seahawks season. The Seahawks season has been a jumbled up mess. Obviously, you guys need to spend more time and attention on the defensive side of the ball, bringing some talent in over there. Excuse me. To wrap it up, got Rams and 49ers new team, really playing for much. Rams are already in the playoffs, but I think this is, once again, a rival game, division game. I don't expect 49ers to be playing too many starters. So for that reason, I got the Rams over the 49ers, just for the simple fact the 49ers will be resting players. You have Chiefs and Chargers, nothing on the line there. I don't expect Mahomes to be playing too much, against the Chargers team that is already kind of started their quarterback search. And you got Bills and Dolphins. Winner gets the division. Dolphins have already secured their place in the playoff with even with the loss. But the Bills need to win. Bills need to win. Only way they can get in, if other teams lose, the Steelers lose, they're in. If the Jags lose, they're in. If the Texans and Colts tie, they're in. But I think Buffalo wants to prove something to Miami, and I think Miami wants to prove something to them also. Even though, like I said, Miami's already in the playoffs, Miami wants to, they need a win to win the division. I think this is going to be a highly competitive game. That's probably why it's the Sunday night game. I'm going Dolphins. I think Dolphins got a bad taste in their mouth that they're getting smacked around by Baltimore the last time out. Buffalo has been kind of, shaky coming down the stretch, and I got the Dolphins. I got the Dolphins pulling off the win. I got the Dolphins pulling off the win and wrapping it up, and then we'll be back on Tuesday. We'll be back Tuesday over here to break down, the first NFC wild card, NFL wild card weekend, the games that's on tap for that. And get reared up for that. Also next week, like I said, we'll do a Tuesday show, doing a preview, or we're doing a review. Tuesday, Thursday, we'll be doing a preview for the playoffs. Friday, we'll be doing some NBA stuff. It'll be NBA Friday next Friday. We'll be doing that. As always, man, appreciate taking the time to listen, like, share, subscribe, thumbs up, thumbs down. It's all appreciated. I'm humbled anyway. Get my behind up out of here. End you off with the phrase that pays. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, but every time you learn. And I'm out.